many. Okay, Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Tatsuram Militanyena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manavistam Stabidhangyena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Karamaya Dadanti Swapadanti Kam. First of all, I offer my most humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Diksha Guru, Nityalila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Asakarasata Sitima Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then I offer my humble obeisances. I offer my obeisances unto the lotus feet
Hare Krishna.
And Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami. I offer my humble obeisances unto the Sri Rupa Nuvadhu Varga, Srila Bhakti Pradhan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Goswami Maharaj. Quadrant, 4, verse 1. He reasons ill who say that Krishna when living still in sound. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living spread the holy name. So it has been the concept of many of my god brothers, Srila Prabhupada's disciples, that somehow this sound vibration is in a tape recorder. So whenever you're studying poetry, as some of you may have studied in college or high school even, you try to understand what is the mind of the poet. What is behind what he has written. Why he has written it in that particular way. What is his intention? What is he trying to get across? So first we look at the fact that who's the subject that he's speaking about, Haridas Thakur. Was there any kind of tape recorder at the time of Haridas Thakur in the 1500s? So there was no such tape recorder at that time. When did he write the poem? He wrote the poem in 1872. It wasn't until 6 years later that somebody named Thomas Alva Edison made the first recording machine in 1878. Hence, there was no such thing as a tape recorder when the poem was written. So what was the intention of the poet? He's living still in sound. Where's the sound coming from? Where is the sound coming from? It's coming from the lips of the Sadhu. It's coming from the Parampara. By Sri Krishna's mercy, Lord Brahma received the 18-syllable mantra. You know what the 18-syllable mantra is? This is the Buddha. So, he received this mantra. What is this mantra? In Brahma Samhita it describes there's three things. There's mantra, there's yantra, and there's tantra. Mantra is the sound, yantra is the form, tantra is the power, the shakti. So we see that Sri Krishna has given this mantra, and where is this 18-syllable mantra? It is described in Brahma Samhita. He has given this mantra through Saraswati. Saraswati Devi was the one who gave the mantra through Lord Brahma. So, what is this 18-syllable mantra? This 18-syllable mantra is actually the structure in terms of form. It is the structure of Goloka Vrindavan in the spiritual world. Also, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in the purport of the fourth verse of the Brahma Samhita, fifth chapter, that it represents the manifestation of Radha Krishna conjugal. Furthermore, in the 8th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 15th verse, this chapter is about Mother Yasoda seeing the universal form in the mouth of Sri Krishna. So in the purport, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes that Sri Krishna's form is composed of mantras. So we see that the form of Radha Krishna, the form of Krishna, they're composed of mantras, transcendental sound vibrations, beginning with this Gopal mantra. This Gopal mantra is the source. Beginning with one aspect of that Gopal mantra. Cling. Cling is the bij, is the seed mantra. Understand? All the mantras are in that mantra. And that seed. You take a small seed and you put it in the ground and you get a banyan tree. It is a very big tree. So many fruits and roots and things come out of that one seed. Similarly, from Kling, you will have millions and billions of mantras, all mantras, unlimited mantras are present there. Understand? So, what happens? Brahma receives this transcendental sound vibration. And then after meditating on this mantra for a long time, then he receives the Kam Gayatri, human Kamadeva. So that comes from the flute of Sri Krishna. So it's very important to understand that this 18-syllable mantra, a Gopal mantra, forms a hexagonal. You know what a hexagonal means? 6 sides. 1, yeah, that's 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sides. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, its first verse, Urdhva mulam madashakam. Urdhva mula. The mula means root. Urdhva, it is going up. Ada shaka. The shaka, the branch, ada, is going down. Where will we see a tree where the root is going up and the branch is going down? If you see a tree standing by the side of a lake, and you look in the lake at the reflection, you will see a direct reflection of that tree, but it will be upside down. The roots will be up and the branches will be down. Well, what is this statement by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita? To understand that this material world is upside down. It is an upside down manifestation of the spiritual world. It is a reflection. And even at the smallest molecular level, we will see in the benzene ring and throughout the molecular structures of the universe that this hexagonal, 6-sided figure appears everywhere. It appears in the lotus. It appears in the beehive. It appears in the Giant's Causeway between Scotland and Ireland. There's a Giant's Causeway and there's all these stones that, that are all, they're all hexagonal. They're big, long, tall stones and they're all hexagonal. So this hexagonal feature is manifest all over the world, from the lowest molecular structure to the highest structures in the world. It is manifest everywhere. It is a reflection. This world is a reflection of that original spiritual world, the hexagonal world of Goloka Vrindavan, which is built on a lotus flower, a transcendental lotus flower. So, Krishna is playing the flute. He is giving Brahma the Kam Gayatri. He already has, by Krishna's mercy, the Gopal mantra. And he gives these transcendental sounds from his lips. We know that it is in his heart. Janmad yasya yataha anaya ritaratascha arteshu vignaswarattene brahma riddhaya. In the riddhaya, in the heart of Lord Brahma. It has gone. So when he hears this flute and he speaks this sound vibration which has entered through the 8 ear holes of his foreheads and entered into his heart, he then initiates the first personality in the universe to construct the universe, Vishwakarma. And he gives him Kling, this mantra. And this Kling mantra, this is explained by Srila Bhakti Rakshak Srila Gurudeva Maharaj. That Vishwakarma receives this mantra, and within that mantra, all the mantras are there. So this Kling, it is explained by Bhakti Vinod Thakur from the Gautamiya Tantra. Remember we talked about Tantra. So there are different forms of Tantra. There's Tamasic Tantra, there's Rajasic Tantra, and there's Sattvic Tantra. So the Gautamiya Tantra is a Sattvic Tantra. In the Gautamiya Tantra, it explains in great detail how this Kling, this Bij mantra, is broken down into 5 syllables which represent many different things. Ka, La, I, Anuswar, Bindu. Ka means the head and face of Krishna, head, face, and neck, and all the features. La, that means the chest and arms of Krishna. I means the abdomen of Krishna. Anuswar Bindu. Anuswar means the thighs and the genitals, and Bindu means the calves and the feet. Kala e Anuswar Bindu. This is the whole form of Sri Krishna within Kling. You're reciting, who has got Brahman initiation here? Who has that? So you're reciting every day this Kling mantra. You should understand it, the depth of this mantra. And what is in this mantra? When you say Kling, you are talking about Krishna, whose body is composed of mantras, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti. You understand? Ka means Krishna. La means the ocean of love between Radha and Krishna. I means Srimati Radhika. Anuswar Bindu means the ecstatic kissing between Radha and Krishna. Kala e Anuswar Bindu. So this is about Radha Krishna Kandila. Okay? What is also about this? You understand? Kala e Anuswar Bindu means 5 kinds of pushpa. In the Kam Gayatri, you have Pushpa Banaya. You know that word? Pushpa Banaya. Pushpa means flower. And Banaya means arrow. Pushpa Banaya. Flower arrows. There are 5 kinds of flower arrows. Mango, ashok, and like that. I can't remember the name. Please forgive me. So, huh? He's got it up. So, in these 5 flower arrows, Kala e Anuswar Bindu, in these 5 syllables. And then Kala Anuswarbindu means the five elements: water, earth, fire, air, and ether. So when Vishwakarma receives this Bij mantra, from that each syllable, the syllable for water, the syllable for earth, the syllable for fire, the syllable for air, the syllable for ether, there are so many mantras within each syllable, and he will use those mantras to manifest all the planets on the earth. Explained by Srila. So, Brahma also initiates Narada, and Narada initiates Vyas, and Vyas initiates Madhva, and it comes down. What is coming out of the mouth of these personalities? What went into the ear holes of Brahma? What went into the ear holes of Brahma? Who can say? Huh? Yeah, but in what form? The flute of Sri Krishna. Yes. Huh? Venuna. From the flute of Sri Krishna, these mantras were given through the ears and through the heart. Dene Brahma Vidya. So then, when you are hearing the transcendental sound vibration from the lotus lips of the sadhu, living still in sound, means that he's carrying, the present sadhu is carrying with him the transcendental sound vibration of Krishna's flute in his heart. So, one of the arguments is, but Prabhupada said anything that's engaged in Krishna service becomes Brahman. And if we look at the fourth chapter of Bhagavad Gita, verse 24, and we read the purport, we will see that everything is transformed into Brahman. But Brahman is dismissed by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as being not that important. Yes, it's transcendental. Yes, it's spiritual. External. Mahaprabhu tells Ramananda Roy this is external. So yes, the tape recorder is being used in Krishna's service. It is becoming Brahman, transformed by Prabhupada's mercy. But when they asked Prabhupada how they could understand the difference between Krishna and his energy, he said, just like I am speaking in that tape recorder. And later on, you will turn on the tape recorder and you will hear my voice, but that is not me. I am not present there. It's sound. The sound is there, but it is not me. Try to understand, Prabhupada has already answered this question, but they are not reading, they are not studying, they are not understanding. I was on a morning walk. You weren't there that day. We were in the Bay Area for the meetings about the organization of the Sangha. So Mayami Maharaj and myself and Padmanabha Maharaj were walking with Srila Gurudeva. So he explained to us, when you read or you watch the video or listen to the tape, you will get transcendental knowledge. But you cannot get the moods of the inhabitants of Braj, especially Srimati Radhika, except by hearing the sound vibration from the lips of the sadhu. Does that mean you shouldn't read? No. It means you should read and read and read so much. I used to tell some devotees when Srila Gurudeva was here, he will say, what benefit am I going to get by going to hear Narayan Maharaj? I said, I will tell you. I want you to read one chapter of Gita or one chapter of Bhagavatam before you go. Then you go and listen to the Harikatha. Then after you listen to the Harikatha, everyone pay attention. After you listen to the Harikatha, and when you come back, I want you to read the same chapter. So then these devotees are writing, Maharaj, it was amazing. It was like a whole new chapter. So much new information came out in the book when I read it. It's like a whole new, everything was being revealed. Things were being revealed in the chapter that I didn't see the first time. Yeah. So you come and you hear from the sadhus, and then you read. And those things that you read, I started rereading the Bhagavatam and the Chaitanya Charitamrita after I was associating with Gurudeva. All these things. I had read all of them when I was with Srila Gurudeva Maharaj and Bhuvaneshwar, but new things were coming out every minute. So living still in sound. The sound is coming from the parampara, from the lips of the sadhus. It is not in a tape recorder, it is not on a video, it is not in any of these places, it is in the hearts of the sadhus. This is where the sound vibration is coming from. This is where the sound vibration is being broadcast. Prema Bhakti Jaha Hoite. The Guru is broadcasting prema from his lotus lips. Prema Bhakti Jaha. And Srila Gurudeva said, the closer you are to hearing that sound, the closer you will get to tasting those moods. I remember, and I think all these devotees here remember being very close to Gurudeva when we lectured in Kartik and when we lectured at different festivals. And I remember sometimes he would experience some ecstasy when talking about the different verses, like when in Italy he was talking about the Baha verse, the Krishna's, or the peacock feather and the yellow turban and the yellow flower and the yellow dhoti and beautiful birds. And he was describing this verse and he was weeping. And everyone on the stage near him was experiencing Jaha Hoite, Prema Bhakti Jaha, the ecstasy, the prema that he was broadcasting from him. The ecstasy that was, this is called Bhava. It is a shadow of Bhav. He's experiencing it, and then we are tasting it by his mercy. This is the mercy of Sadhu. Mercy of Sadhu. That's why when Srila Gurudeva first came to the West and he was preaching everywhere, all the devotees were crying. They didn't understand. Why were they crying like this? So I have one godbrother who was complaining, no, you cannot cry until you're in Bhav. They're bogus crying. Then I was reading the story of my dear god sister Jamuna Devi. Jamuna Devi was telling the story. She was there with Guru Das and Mukunda and Malati and all these, the Shama Sundar and everyone in San Francisco with Prabhupada. And she said Prabhupada was preaching, and when he was preaching, he was teaching us some very intimate things, and he began weeping and we all began weeping. And in Los Angeles, my other god sister was telling how Srila Prabhupada lost control of himself on the Vyasa Sun and began weeping, and all the devotees began weeping. So this weeping is not reserved just for those who have already achieved Bhav, but they're getting a shadow of the Bhav of the Sadhu. And so they experience some taste of it, which is called Bhava. So we are very fortunate to have had the association of so many great sadhus. Srila Gurudeva Maharaj and Srila Gurudeva and Srila Prabhupada and so many great sadhus. And this weekend we are going to be glorifying those sadhus. They are the root. They are the root because the root mantra, the Bij mantra, the seed mantra of all transcendental sound vibration is residing in their heart. And everything is coming from that fruit. And as long as we are with rapt attention hearing the transcendental sound of the lips from the lips of the sadhus, we will make advancement in our Krishna consciousness. So we are very fortunate to have so many great sadhus here. I am very happy and eager to hear my godbrothers and god sisters speak about the glories of the great acharyas in our line. And I want to thank all of you for coming. This was just a little something I wanted to share with you today. Vaishnavi.
Well, Mars left 5 minutes gap for his.
Well, I'd like a little clarification.
Do you have a quick
Something
question?
you mentioned earlier, to reconcile a point.
Yeah.
Because you were mentioning how the tape recorder,
Right.
the book, we can read it, and it may not be part of the one.
No, it's Shabda Brahman, well, it's Brahman, but what Gurudev said was that it gives knowledge, transcendental knowledge.
So how do we understand when our superiors say, when I'm not present with you, to hear me perfectly, because we understand the benefit there, they say to
Read the books.
read the books or follow my instructions.
Yeah.
So how is that connection?
Somebody asked that very question of Srila Gurudeva Maharaj. I don't know if you were there when they asked him that question, but I read it. And he said, yes, all gurus will tell you to read their books. He said, but do you understand what they're saying in the books? That is the question. He said, and if you're not understanding, then you will have to hear from someone who's carrying that transcendental sound vibration in their heart. And it's clear, at least to me, without trying to be critical, that based on a lot of the decisions that some of my god brothers and god sisters are making about how to conduct the mission of Srila Prabhupada, that they're not understanding what's in the books. If they understood what was in the books, they would have celebrated Srila Narayan Maharaj's preaching. They would have celebrated Srila Sridhar Maharaj's preaching. They would have celebrated and welcomed them into the temple with love and respect, because they would have understood the gifts that they were carrying within their heart. They didn't do that.
And what do we make of Master Flourish about the Sri Nityam Bhagavata to say that?
Yes, you have to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam in 3rd canto, 25th chapter, verse 25. Septam Prasangam Manaviri Sangam Bhavanti Vikarma Rasayana Katha. So in this verse, he's saying Satam. Prabhupada translates the word Satam to mean pure devotion. That just in the word for word. Then he says, so this Harikatha or Rasayana, it is a medicine that clears up in Ayurveda. Rasayana is a medicine that rejuvenates your body. Old people like myself take Rasayana. So that we should be more energetic and useful. So Rasayana is for elderly people to rejuvenate their body. So what is the rejuvenation that is taking place by hearing the Harikatha, which is Bhavanti Rit Karna, going into the Rit, the heart, through the Karna, ear. Rit Karna, Rasayana Katha. This Katha is acting as a Rasayana by going through the ear into the heart. What is that Rasayana doing? In verse 33 of the 25th chapter it says, by the process of devotional service, the subtle body is dissolved. So the manas, the buddhi, and the ahankara. The ahankara, the identification, the consciousness becoming contaminated with the modes of ignorance, passion, and even goodness, has developed a false egotistical conception of who they are, not the soul. You have this gross physical body. Within that you have a subtle astral body. Within that astral body, the soul, you reside. And your consciousness, the consciousness, the soul emanates the consciousness like the sun emanates sunshine. So the consciousness is being distributed from the soul throughout the subtle and gross body. And it's being contaminated by the modes of material nature. So this contamination gives an ahankara, a false egotistical conception. This ahankara and the subtle material mind and material intelligence is dissolved by the process of bhakti, of which the first process is Shravana, here. So, in the purport of Srila Prabhupada's purport and Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's purport of this verse are very educational. Srila Prabhupada, he writes one sentence where he says, theoretical knowledge or study will only produce a negligible result in terms of making spiritual advancement. Negligible. Minor. Prabhupada likes this stuff. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur breaks down that verse into parts so we can understand it in relation to the process of developing bhakti. Because the word at the end is Shraddhir, Bhaktir, Ratir, Bhaktir, Anupranishad. Shraddhir, Ratir, Bhaktir, Anupranishad. So he explains that if you hear Harikatha from persons who have not achieved prema, who are not in that category, who are not sadhu, that will encourage you to do bhajana kriya, the practice of bhajana. If they are preaching nicely, then you will be encouraged to practice bhajana by hearing the sadhu. He said, but when you hear the Harikatha of pure sadhus, when you hear the excellent, he uses the word excellent pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the lips of the pure sadhu, he said, then your anarthas start to reduce. We discussed the anarthas last night. Calm, low, lust, anger, greed, envy, right? Pride, delusion. These are the negative emotions. The positive emotions are love, forgiveness, humility. So many positive emotions. Gratitude, love. We want love. This is the medicine. So, the anarthas, the things that are negative, those negative things are removed, he says, by hearing the Harikatha. And then one is placed on the platform of Shraddhir. He says this Shraddhir means Nishta, Guru Nishta. Firm, unshakable faith in Guru. That's what this Shraddhir means in this verse. Then he explains, when you attain this Nishta, and you continue to hear the excellent pastimes from the lips of such sadhus, then you will come to the platform of Ruchi. Then, after hearing the pastimes in the state of Ruchi, the excellent pastimes from the lips of such sadhus, you will come to the platform of Asakti. Then, when hearing the excellent pastimes from the lips of such sadhus, from the platform of Asakti, you will go to Ratir, Bhav. And then from Bhav, you will go to praying by hearing this. So he's clearly demarcating step by step in your progression on the path of bhakti that at each stage, the medicine, the requirement for going from one stage to the next is hearing the excellent pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from the lips of sadhus. This is the process. There is no other process. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur says, one can have the darshan of Krishna by hearing the transcendental pastimes of Sri Krishna from the lips of pure devotees. There is no other way. This is in that's number 18 in his, if you look at his Upadesh Valley, the 18th Upadesh is the, you find it, right? So, it's clear from this description of Srila Bhakti Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and from that one sentence of Srila Prabhupada, theoretical knowledge and study of the scriptures will only give you negligible advancement. This is in the purport to the 25th verse. I remember, Nishringa remembers, we were in LA, remember? And one of my godbrothers came in and I read that to him and he said, really? Prabhupada said that in the Sure, yeah. You found it? Rasi? What does it say? Read it out loud. Huh?
Exactly what you said.
Exactly what I said. Well, my memory's not too bad. Okay.
He had said that he'd been reading Bhagavatam for 40 years and he doesn't remember that at all.
Yeah. Why? Because he's not hearing from the lips of the sadhu. 40 years of reading without associating with Satam. Without association of Satam, then Bhavanti, Rit, Karna, Rasayana Katha will not take place. This is the importance of Akhanda Guru Tattva. This is the importance of hearing from sadhu. Okay, thank you very much.
Sorry to change it from my schedule, but, you know,
No, I wanted to give you a thorough answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maharaj. Now we're going to hear from Sri Prabhu Booth.
Jai.
Did you want to lead one bhajan, Prabhu? Yes.
Yeah. You didn't give enough miles.
Yeah, that's yours.
Very well.
Brains is behind
You play? Okay, indeed. Madhava, one program is very good.
बोले वृंदावन में लाल की जय, श्री राधा रमन लाल की जय, बड़े सनवाल की जय, विश्वभर राजकुमारी जी की जय, जय जय श्री राधे हरे कृष्णा Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Ramo Hare Rama Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Gaur Sitanath Premanande Hari Bol. Nam Shrestha Ishichiputra Atra Surupam Rupam Tasagrajamuri Purim Machurim Ushuvarutam Radhakundaram Ahoradika Marvasam Napurasa Patita Kripaya Sri Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tulale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Bhaktaya Namo Ananda Leelamaya Vigrahaya Hemabadivyaschavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapuraya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshay Chiltascha Kamari Toranamahati Vihivamaikam Sharanam Rapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanarabindam Vrinde Namaste Charanarabindam Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Everyone. Hey Krishna, Hey Yadava, Hey Sakhi, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. Sham Sundar Shikanda Shikar Swarha Surali Manara Radhikars Kamama Kripanidhe Supriya Charna King Kurim Kuru Tuvai Vasmi Najivami Tayavana Tivikyaya Devi Tam Namam Charantikam. First of all, I offer my sustained Dandavat Puspanji, my heart like flowers thousands and thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudeva, Asvadev Paramarada Tinaguru Padapana, Nitrila Pravishta Om Vishnupada, Ashtota Sata Sri Rupadugacharya Varya, Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayana Goswami. Secondly, after my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudeva, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Guru Parampara. And finally, after my pranam, to all the assembled Vaishnava and Vaishnavis, headed by our Tikani Parigan and Sri Srimati Shamaram, Vivancha Kalpaturus, Upasani Vikanam Vaishnavis. So, by the causeless mercy of Sri Gauranga Gauranga, this evening we are beginning our Sri Akhanda Guru Tattva Festival. So I want to speak just a few words on the subject of the meaning of Guru and Akhanda. Akhanda Guru Tattva. What is the purpose of this world?
What's the point? There was a time when there was no world manifest. Kirdakasha Vishnu entered into Gavatakasha Vishnu, Gavatakasha Vishnu entered into Mahavishnu, Mahavishnu entered into Lord Narayan. And no creation was going. Then, when the time came for the next creation, then the Vedas personified. They came and they surrounded Bhagavan and they prayed to him. They offered very beautiful prayers to wake him up and request him to create the world. Just like if there's a very powerful king in Vedic culture, the king is not woken up in the morning by an alarm clock. Some bards, some musicians, they come and then they begin to sing his prayers and he wakes up hearing his own glories. It's a good day. So that's how the kings, they used to wake up. Even in Europe, Louis XIV used to do it. So, similarly, where does this come from? It comes from the spiritual world. When the Vedas personify it, they come and they approach the Supreme Lord in his Yoga Nidra and they pray. Jaya 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 Jam Ajita Dosha Gribita Gunam Tvanasiya Datmana Samavirura Samasta Bagaha Agajagadokasam Akila Shaktava Bodhakakti Kochida Jayatmana Chacharutanu Chanena Nigamaha. Oh my Lord, Jai Jai, all glories to you, all glories to you. This proves that the Vedas are transcendental, not material. Why? There's no material world. And the Vedas are already speaking. Jai Jai, all glories to you, all glories to you. You are Ajita. So they call him Ajit. That is the name of the Lord. To wake him up. That means that the name of the Lord is transcendental. It is not part of this material world. And the name of the Lord, being non-different from the Swarup of the Lord, if someone calls it, it has the power to attract his attention. Otherwise, he wouldn't wake up and the universe wouldn't be here. That's if you want any proof, here it is. That the holy name has the power to attract the attention of the Lord. He wakes up and they say, oh my Lord, you have all potencies. You have your internal spiritual energy. And sometimes you manifest your external material energy. And there are many jivas situated in that external material energy. And they have many dosh, many faults. Because they are in the influence of Maya on them. So, oh my Lord, please wake up, manifest the universes along with the living entities who are anatagrasta, and then manifest your spiritual potency in that material world and remove all of their faults so that they can be liberated and go to the spiritual world. So this is how the universe begins. So, how is it that when the universe is manifest, that as the Vedas have prayed to the Supreme Lord, that the Supreme Lord's spiritual potency enters into the world and removes all the faults of the jivas? That is the Guru Tattva. Supreme Lord himself directly doesn't do it, but Supreme Lord, Guru is also one form of the Supreme Lord. It is in the form of Guru Tattva that Supreme Lord removes all the faults of the jivas and brings them, awakens them to the sweetness of service to his lotus feet. So, Sri Krishna explained to Uddhav, Anadya vidya yuktasya purusasya mavedanam svatona sambhavat anyas tattva jnanado bhavet. The meaning is that all the living entities in this world, they are anadi avidya yuktasya. They are yukta, united with avidya, ignorance. Since when? Anadi, time with no beginning. Anadi vidya yuktasya. It's very important to understand what is this avidya. Our body, physical body, and mind is not the self. What is the relationship between your body and mind and your Atma? This is a Shashi Sringa Sambandha. The relationship between horns and a rabbit. Have you ever seen a rabbit's horns? No, because rabbits don't have horns. So that's the relationship that you have with your body and mind. But it may be that you don't sound convinced. And that is called avidya. So now you know what avidya is, right? That's avidya. So precisely, we can say in this way, the body and mind, they are an upadhi. That means a designation. So, to give a simple example, if there's a crystal, and you hold a red rose next to the crystal, then the crystal appears to glow with a reddish glow, because it's catching the reflection of the rose. So there's nothing red about the crystal at all, but circumstantially, there appears to be a reddish glow there. That redness is an upadhi, something which is not intrinsically part of the crystal. So that is an upadhi. Now, when an upadhi is connected with the object upon which it is a designation, that is called adhyas. That is called adhyas, or superimposition. So avidya, here in this example, the crystal means your consciousness. And the designation is your body and mind. And the vritti, the Shakti of the Supreme Lord, Maya, which accomplishes the adhyas, the superimposition of that upadhi upon the jiva, is called avidya. The avidya vritti of Maya. It does two things. First, avarnatmaka, the jiva forgets who am I. And then, vikshepatmaka, our attention is thrown out into the world. So we forget who we are, and we become very attentive to external things which are going on. So anadya vidya yuktasya purushasya atmavedanam. Swato means by himself. Because the living being has been united with avidya since time without beginning. That means there's no cause to his avidya. There's no material cause. There's no origin to this. So therefore, there's nothing he can do to get out of it. Understand? Because it is anadi, it has no beginning. There's nothing he can do to get out of it. And because it eclipses his own identity. Jivena swabhav Krishna dasa abhiman. De atma dhyani achadite se dhyan. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taught Sanatana Goswami that the natural abhiman or identity of the jiva is Krishna das abhiman. To be Krishna's das. But that knowledge is now covered by the idea, I am the physical body and mind. So because his very sense of identity has been eclipsed, everything he does comes from his false sense of identity. So nothing that he does can get him out. Everything that he does just compounds the situation more. So anadya vidya yuktasya purushasya tvavedanam sato no sambhavad anyas. It's very profound if we consider how the jiva is united with avidya since time anadi without beginning. If you consider carefully, you become completely peaceful and respectful to everyone. Amanina manadena kirtanya sadahri. Not seeing faults. See, Krishna has said, guna dosha darshi dosho. To see the material faults and qualities of other living beings itself is a fault. One should not become preoccupied with them. Why? Sometimes we think, oh, this person is bad. But what is bad? The Atma bad. You're only looking at the physical body and mind, and not at the Atma. So this person is bad. Why is he bad? Oh, maybe because of something, it's a reaction for something he did in the previous life. So he's responsible for his situation. But what was happening in the previous life, why did he have that nature? Because of the previous life. And that was because of the previous, and it never ends. Huh? So why are you blaming? Don't blame anyone. Whatever problem is in our life, we should only accept on ourselves, not on others. Take the blame, chant the name, taste the brain. Don't point fingers at anyone. So, in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there, when Kali Maharaj was breaking the legs of a cow, of a bull, yeah? And Parikshit Maharaj came there with his sword drawn, and he said to the bull, "Oh, who are you? And why are you suffering?" What did he say? Dharmam bhavisi dharmagya dharmosi brasharupadrik. Yad papam kritam stanam suchakasapi tadbhavet. The bull said, I cannot blame anyone. There are so many theories, but I cannot ascertain. The person who was beating him was standing there, right there, but he didn't blame him. Parikshit Maharaj said, "Oh, you have answered me according to, you must be Dharma the bull. You must be Dharma, you must be religion personified. Because you have answered me according to the principle that the destination that the perpetrator goes to, the person who points the finger and identifies him goes to the same destination." So no finger pointing, no blaming. Be peaceful, kind to everyone, respectful to everyone. Why? Because everyone in this world, anadya vidyuktasya. There's no material beginning to this. We cannot blame anyone for their situation. Purusasya savedanam sato nasambhavad anyas. And by ourselves, no individual can get out. Therefore, nasambhavad anyas tattvagyo jnanado bhavet. Krishna is saying, therefore, there must be anya, another person, tattvagyo, who knows the truth, tattvado, and who can give that truth to us. So here the discussion is the distinction between Atma and Paramatma. Because the Atma is in a situation that he cannot get out of. There has to be another person who is not in ignorance who can bring him out. And that person who is not in ignorance and who can bring us out from our ignorance, that is Paramatma. That is Paramatma. But there's still one more problem. What is that? Jive shakshat nahi tate guru chaitya rupe. Shiksha guru hoy Krishna mahanta swarupe. And that is that the Paramatma in our heart, in our conditioned state, we cannot communicate with him. We cannot talk to, we cannot perceive him. Jive sakshat nahi tati guru chaitya rupe. There's a guru in our heart. He's right there. Paramatma. But in the conditioned state, we cannot perceive him. And therefore, Shiksha Guru Hoy Krishna Mahanta Swarupe, that Lord who is in our heart, he manifests outwardly in the form of Gurudeva. So, Krishna, Guru, Bhakta, Shakti, Avatar, Prakash. Krishna A Chairup Karna Vilas. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Pad said, Krishna himself is playing in 6 forms. Krishna, his own form, Guru, Bhakta, the devotee, Shakti, his potencies like a Radha Pandit, Avatar, like Advaita Charip, or Prakash, like Nityananda Prabhu. So 6 features, Krishna, Guru, Bhakta, Shakti, Avatar, Prakash, Krishna A, Chairup, Karina Vilas. Krishna's playing in this way. So, the Supreme Lord does not directly give mercy. What are we discussing here? We're discussing the necessity of taking shelter of Guru. First part of the necessity is because we cannot get out ourselves. And the second part of the necessity is God is also not going to help you. Because Bhagavan in the spiritual world only interacts with his Swarup Shakti. He doesn't interact with Maya. then that Paramatma, Samoham Sarvabhuteshu, Nani Dvesti Na Priya. I am equal to everyone. He's impartial, just watching. Upadasta Anumantascha. He's just watching. If you're lying on the beach sipping pina colada, or if you're burning to death in a fire, he's just watching. It's no difference to him. Right? It's all the same for Paramatma. So why is it all the same for Paramatma? The reason is this, that, you see, mercy is a movement of the heart. Mercy is a movement of heart. If a person, Srila Prabhupada used to say, if a person has been pricked by a pin, then if he sees a pin going next to someone else, he can feel it, right? If you felt a pain and you see someone else in that same pain, you feel it. So there's a move, when someone has suffered, if they see someone else suffering, they identify with that and their heart moves. That is called karuna, compassion. You see? Now, Bhagavan has never suffered. He has no material suffering. He's Sachidananda Vigraha. Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. There's no Maya in him. So, even though the Sufi makes this distinction, he calls it, to know about suffering is called the dukkha gyan, knowledge of suffering. So he knows it, theoretically. He knows it in theory. Do you know the theory of suffering? Or do you only know the practical part? The second one. Okay, well the theory is this. The theory is this. Here's your physical body. Inside you have a subtle body. Right? Manas, Buddhi, Ahankar, and the last level of the subtle body is called Chitta. It's called Chitta. Okay? That's called Chitta. And this Chitta can expand and contract. The Chitta is accommodated by Akash, by space. Space gives room for movement outwardly and also inwardly. Bhutanam chittadatitam bahe antram evacha pranendriyat madhisyatmam navaso vritti lakshanam. Lord Kapil Dev in the third canto explained the qualities of Akash. It gives space for you to move outwardly, and it gives space for your inner movements of your subtle body as well. So, one name for Akash in Sanskrit is Ka. Like Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita. Shabda K Parasham Nishu. I am the sound in the ether. K means in the Ka. Ka. Ka means ether. So, when the Chitta is expanding in the ether, that is very beautiful. Sukha. So the word sukha, happiness in Sanskrit means sukha, that the Chitta is so beautifully expanding in the Ka. Yes. And dukkha, suffering, means dukkha, that the Chitta is contracting. So then you become, when you're suffering, it's like you're the center of everything. Right? You can't think of anything else or anyone else. And the whole world is just this pain that's right in front of you. Because the Chitta has contracted. And you can't, there's no room to think and conceptualize even at that time of pain. So God knows the theory of suffering. That's called dukkha gyan. But He does not have dukkha anubhav, the realization. Our problem is the other way around. We know the theory of the happiness of the spiritual world, but no realization. So He's the other way around. He knows the theory of suffering in the material world, but He has no realization. And because He has no realization, Bhagavan, His heart is not melting. Why? Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu, Dina Bandhu. He's full of compassion. So if He knew about the suffering, if He had the experience of what it's like to suffer in the material world, because His heart is so soft, then He would deliver us all in a second. We'd all be delivered at once. Srila Jiva Goswami makes this argument. We wouldn't be here right now. So if you have a doubt, if you think, well, Prem Brojan is saying, Bhagavan has dukkha gyan, but he doesn't have dukkha anubhav. If you have a doubt, then don't have any doubt. Because if it weren't true, then that means if it wasn't true, then what would happen? If God had Dukkha Anubhav, we'd all be already in Goloka Vrindavan, we'd be delivered right now. So, when Krishna was in the womb of Devaki, or rather Vasudeva Krishna, was in the womb of Devaki, in the prison cell of Kamsa, at that time, all the demigods came in the sky and they began to offer prayers. And they said, Swayam samuttira sudustaram duman, bhavanavam bhima adabra solidaha, bhavat padambora navam aptate nidayata sadanugraho bhavan. The meaning is this, and it's actually this verse of the Garbhastuti, the prayers of the devatas when Krishna is in the womb of Devaki. That's called Garbhastuti. This is the explanation of Srimad Bhagavatam of the Guru Parampara. The meaning is this, that, oh my Lord, you are shining like the sun. Duman, you're like the sun. So here it means that in the sun there's no darkness. You don't know anything. You don't have the experience of the darkness of the material world. Bhavanvam bhimam asdabra solidaha. But this material world is like a dark and dangerous ocean of material existence. But swayam samuttirya, when your sadhus, they cross over this ocean of material existence in the boat of service to your lotus feet, they are so kind that when they cross over, they leave the boats back on the other side. Usually if someone crosses over a river in a boat, then they get out and the boat's on the other side and everyone on the other side is stranded. Right? So the Devatas are saying, your sadhus, when they cross over this ocean of material existence, they are so kind that they don't leave everyone stranded there, but they leave a boat for others to get in and cross. So that is the Guru Parampara. The Acharyas come here and they have their pastime of going through their sadhana bhav, praying and crossing over this material, and while they're here, they give instructions to us, inspire us, and inspire their satsisya to be their representative in the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. So Sadanugraho Bhavan, your name is Sadanugraha. This is a name for Krishna, Sadanugraha. It has three meanings. One, Sad Anugraha, you give Anugraha, mercy. Two, Sat, you're devotee. That means you don't give mercy to those who are not devotees. Sadanugraha means you only give mercy to the devotees because you only interact with your Swarup Shakti. So when your devotee cries, he's not crying because he can't pay the mortgage or whatever, his wife left him, whatever it is. When the pure devotee is crying, he's crying due to separation. And that his pain, his suffering is a manifestation of the Swarup Shakti. So Sri Krishna hears it and he delivers that person. But, so Sadanugraha means you give your mercy only to the devotee. So the second meaning of Sadanugraha means you give your mercy only through the devotee. Understand? Because the Supreme Lord, his heart is not melting because he doesn't have Dukkha Anubhav. But the pure devotee has what is called Jagara Swapna Dukkhavat. Jagara Swapna Dukkhavat. Jagara means waking up. And Swapna Dukh means the suffering in a dream. Just like if you suffered in a dream and then you woke up, then you feel fine, but you have a vague memory that you suffered in the dream. So in the same way, for example, when Narad Muni was walking through the forest and he saw the two sons of Kuver, Nalukuver and Manigriv, intoxicated, playing in the water. And the girls they were with, they got out and covered themselves, but they were standing naked and they were hurling abuse at him. So at that time, when Narad Muni saw them, his heart melted. Why? And Jagara Swapna Dukkhavat. Because he had a vague memory that in his previous life, he was the son of a maidservant. And that history is there in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. How the Bhaktivedantas came during the rainy season. And he served them and they gave him mantra. And then he followed their instructions. Then at the end of his life, Paryu Jamani Mayitam Shutam Bhagavatim Tunum Rabdakama Nirvano Nyapadat Parchabodaka. Then he attained his spiritual body as Narada Muni. So because of that, his heart melted seeing them in ignorance, in a very pitiable position in the world. And he cursed them, but his curse was such that Kuveratma Jo Baddha Murtyaiva Yadva Toyamoti To Bhakti Badokutota Tata Prema Bhaktim Swakam Midraja Namakshigrahonesti Damodar. That they would get the darshan of Krishna in Braja Gokul and attain Krishna prema. So, Sadhanugraho Bhavan. First, Sadhanugraha means you only give your mercy to the devotee. Secondly, you only give your mercy to others through the devotee. And the third meaning, Sadhanugraha, because this is samas. So by samas you can get many different meanings. So Sadhanugraha, the third meaning is the devotee is your mercy. The devotee is your mercy. Samsara Davana Lita Loka Tranaya Karana Gana Ganatvam. The concentrated, see Krishna Kripa Sri Murti, the concentrated cloud of Krishna's mercy is Sri Guru. So Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Pad, he said, Yadyapi Amara Guru Chaitanya Das. Tatapi Janyami Tahara Prakash. Yadyapi Amara, even though I know my Gurudev is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Das. He's servant of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But at the same time, Tatapi Janyami Tara Prakash. Gurudev is Prakash of the Supreme Lord. What does that mean? Prakash. Just like if the moon is in the sky, then you can see in the water reflection of the moon. This is called Prakash. Or if there's a mirror and someone is reflected in the mirror, this is the Prakash. Now, there are some differences between the bimba and the pratibimba, the original object and the reflection, in general case. First of all, the reflection is not independent, it needs a reflecting medium. Right? It needs a medium in which it can be reflected. Secondly, it's only 2D, it's not in 3D. Thirdly, it doesn't have all the qualities. If a person has a very good fragrance, but if it's not the reflection, then no good fragrance. Right? So all the qualities are not there. But the Prakash of Krishna is not like that. It requires no reflecting medium. It is not inverted. It does not have less qualities. It is exactly the same. So, Krishna, Guru, Bhakta, Shakti, Avatar, Prakash. For example, Nityananda Prabhu is the Prakash of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Supreme Lord has many Prakash Vigrahas in his Leela. For example, in Dwarka, Narad Muni went to Dwarka and he went into every palace. And he saw that Krishna was there. There were many Prakashas of Krishna everywhere. In one palace he went and Krishna, oh, Narad, you have arrived. He went to another palace. Krishna, oh, Narad, when did you arrive in Dwarka? And Narad was thinking, he's really surprised to see me. Each one of the Prakashas that he went to was surprised to see him. Actually, Narad was thinking. Because even though it's the same person, but Prakash Bhed, Abhiman Bhed. Each form of Krishna has a different Abhiman. And in most situations doesn't know that the other forms even exist. So, not only that, but Narad Rishi saw that in one palace, Krishna was sitting and listening to the Brahmanas recite the Puranas. In another palace, he was practicing martial arts. In another palace, he was talking intimately with his wife. In another palace, Krishna was sitting and meditating on the absolute truth, remembering Gayatri Mantra. So remembering the mantras you do in the midday, listening to the Puranas you do in the afternoon, talking intimately with the wife, that's in the evening, like this. So Narad realized not only are there Prakashas of Krishna everywhere, But the Dham itself have different prakashas because in each palace he was going to was a different time zone. It was another Dwarka. So it was 16,000 Krishnas in 16,000 palaces and 16,000 different Dwarkas because they're all different time zones. That's why you can see in Srimad Bhagavatam Narada goes, he can't believe it. He was astonished. So now the thing about Prakash is this. Krishna has a form, and his form is localized in one place. Right? So if he expands and he's over there and he's over there and he's over there, then generally we think that from his one form, he's expanded and gone over there. He's made another expansion over there, another expansion over there. We tend to think like that. But that's not the fact. Why? Because Krishna's one form, Krishna's one form is already everywhere. His one form is already everywhere. It's just that one form that's already everywhere can appear there, or appear over there, or appear over there, or appear over. It's not that this form's going over there and expanding over there. It's not. He has one form which is everywhere, and he can reveal it to the eyes of a devotee in different places at different times as he wants. That's called Prakash. Understand Prakash? Yeah. Okay. So Krishna's already everywhere. And he can reveal himself to anyone he likes at any moment, in any form. And one of those Prakashis is called Shri Guru. Yadyapi amara Guru Chaitanya Das Tatapi Jiniya Ami Tahara Prakash. Then the next verse, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami was saying, Guru Krishna Rupahaya Shastra Pramani Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karin Bhaktagani. So when Sri Krishna appears in this world, in his Prakash Roop, as Gurudev, then what does he do? Does he lift Govardhan Hill? No. Does he dance on the head of Kaliya? No. Does he play flute? No. This is a special form. Guru Krishna Rupaya Shastra Pramane Guru Rupe Krishna Kripa Karin Bhaktagani is a Krishna Kripa Srimurti. It's the form in which he has the pastime of giving mercy to the living entities. Because in his original form, Vrindavana Bihari Lala Ki, he's enjoying Nikunja Lila in Vrindavan. And he does not have any awareness or thoughts of the living entities in the material world. But his Prakash Roop, that is Sri Guru, who has some feeling, like the Jagrad Swapna Dukkhavat. Sri Guru is the Anandamoy, full of bliss. It is Srila Vrindavan Thakur. He said, Jata deke Vaishnavera vyavahara duk, janiya nishchaya se parananda sukh. If you see that a Vaishnava in this world is suffering, then you should know that actually he's experiencing the highest bliss. Vaishnavera jata deki vyavahar duk, worldly suffering in the Vaishnava. Janiya nishchaya se parananda sukh. This is the tattva. But Jagara Swapna Dukkhavat, just like the person who woke up from a dream, has some vague memory. So the Vaishnava in this world, he has some. And so when he sees our suffering, then his heart is melting. Vaishnava Thakura, aprakrita sada, nirdosha anandamay, sadanama ruchi, jiveta doyadra hoy. The Vaishnava is aprakrita, supernatural, has no fault, is full of ananda, but jiveta doyadra hoy. Heart is melting for the living entities in this world. So this is the Guru Tattva. Did I run out of time? I want to go over. How long have I got?
We're already a little bit behind, but like 5 minutes.
5 minutes? Cha? Okay. Then I have 5 minutes to say something about the word Akhanda. No, I'll say that tomorrow. Krishna, his Nam, Rup, Gun and Leela are all supernatural, transcendental. Our material senses cannot touch them. But Sevan Mukhi Jivado Swayameva Spraptada. When the living entity becomes attentive to service, then they naturally manifest. But how can we serve? Where is Krishna? We cannot see in the conditioned state. So Sri Krishna has come in the form of Sri Guru, and then we can serve. He gives us a chance to render service. And when we save Unmukh, completely absorbed in that service, then the mercy of Krishna Nam, Rup, Gun and Leela can manifest in our heart. So Yasya Deve Para Bhakti Yata Deve Tata Garo Tasyaiti Katita Yata Prakashante Mahatmana. In the Upanishads it is said that for one who, as he is devoted to Krishna, he is similarly devoted to his Guru, then Nittam Bhagavata Sevaya, the meaning of all the Shastra will manifest in his heart. So one should have, as one is devoted to Krishna, one should be devoted to Guru. Okay, that's nice. But in the Padma Purana there's something more sweet. And the Puranas are sweeter than the Upanishads. And the Bhagavad Purana is sweeter than everything. So, in the Padma Purana there, Devahuti prays. Bhakti yata haro meisti tadvarista guru yadi mamasti tena satyena sandarshaitu me hari. Oh my Lord, if as I am devoted to you, I have more devotion to my Guru than to you, then kindly appear before me at once. And then the Supreme Lord appeared. So Shastra actually tells one should have more devotion to Guru than to Krishna even. And then he becomes a Vishesh Sevak, special servant. There are two types of servants, Sadharan Sevak and Vishesh Sevak. The Sadharan Sevak, he knows there are 64 angas of bhakti, and one of those angas of bhakti is Vishrambena Guru Seva. It's one of the 64 angas of bhakti he knows. But Vishesh Guru Sevak, he knows there's only one anga of bhakti, Guru Seva. And all Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasya, all the other angas are sublimes of service to Gurudev. I'm hearing to please Gurudev, I'm chanting to please Gurudev, I'm serving the deity to please Gurudev, I'm bowing down to please Gurudev, doing parikrama to please. Everything is just the sublimes, the upangas of Guru Seva. So he's called Vishesh Sevak. And that person attains perfection very quickly. So such a person who has attained perfection, then, only the person who has attained perfection can understand the greatness of Sri Guru. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, there is an eternal line of demarcation between the Saviour and the saved. People often speak about what is the speciality of this Acharya and what is the speciality of this Acharya. What's the speciality of Srila Narayan Maharaj? It's a very big conversation. So I think the Gurudev himself used to express that sentiment. He said, the speciality of my Gurudev is that so many incarnations came to this world, so many acharyas came to this world, and they left and I was still here. So his speciality is, he's the only one who grabbed me by the seeker, and he pulled me out of the filth of material existence and made me taste the nectar of service to his lotus feet. So there's eternal line of demarcation between the Saviour and the saved. Gurudev used to say, first, try to be like Prahlad Maharaj. The prayers of Prahlad Maharaj are so beautiful. In the 7th canto, you can read. The first thing that Prahlad Maharaj prays is, oh my Lord, please don't offer me any big benedictions because I took birth in a demon family. So don't encourage me. So that's always a good thing to remember. If something, Amito Vaishnava e Buddha Hoile. If I think I'm a Vaishnava, then what? Narayagami, go to hell. So the first thing to remember is, I have taken birth in the pits of Kali Yuga. In this very fallen age. All the living entities in this age are completely fallen. They cannot go any, they're so low they cannot go any lower. They just roll to the left or roll to the right. And I have been born in that Yavan Malaja situation. Then Prahlad Maharaj says, but my Lord, Evam janam nipatitam prabhabahi kupe kamabi kamam anuya prapatan prasangat kritu atmasat surashina bhagavan grihite soyam katham nu visrijay tava britja sevam. O Lord Nishingadev, I was associating with materialistic persons, and by following them I had gone into a deep dark well full of poisonous snakes. I had one material desire after another, and I was just following those material desires one after another, and I was in a terrible suffering condition. But what happened? Oh my Lord, your servant. Who? Narad. Again Narad. Your servant Narad. Kritva Atmasat. He made me, Kritva Atmasat means he made me Atmasat. It's very beautiful. He accepted me. Bhagavan Grinite. He accepted me, Kritva Atmasat, and he made me Atmasat. What does Atmasat mean? Kavi no kripa labia ejan kritata hoibe nata shakti buddhihin amihati din karamori atmasata. What does it mean, Atmasat? Atmasat means that though I was independent, by His mercy, He made me fully dependent upon Him. Though I was trying to be independent, I became fully dependent. Though I thought I was puffed up with the idea of I and mine and possessiveness of this world, but He made me His own. You are mine. Gurudev does this. This is called Kritat Masat. That the disciple feels, I have no independence, I am not separate from my Gurudev, I belong to my Gurudev, my body, mind and senses are all only for his service. This is Atmasat. But one cannot do it by himself. Only he can pray, Koro More Atmasat. And by Gurudev's Kripa, then we can become Atmasat. In his commentary on this verse, Srila Vishwanath Thakur said, Prahlad Maharaj is crying. And Prahlad Maharaj said, Kritva Atmasat. Narad Muni said, oh, Supreme Lord, let this jiva be mine. And he accepted me and made me a part of himself. So the disciple becomes a part of Sri Guru, and like an expansion of Sri Guru. He becomes Guru's expansion, non-different from Sri Guru. So Prahlad Maharaj is crying, and he says, so yam katam nu visvijay tava britya sevam. So, oh Lord Nishingadev, you're offering me a benediction. But all I can say is I was suffering in this world. And Narad Muni, by his mercy, he made me a part of himself. And now have become so blissful. So, how could I, Visvijay Tava Britya Sevam, how could I give up the service of your devotee, of your Britya? This is the thing that if someone is on another path, on the path of Jnana, then when you attain perfection, realization of Brahman, then you give up the sadhana of Jnana. If you do yoga sadhana, when you attain perfection, you give up the yoga sadhana. In all different paths. If you're doing karma kanda to go to heaven, when you get to heaven, then you don't do that yagya anymore. But Prahlad Maharaj said, no, bhakti is not like this. I was serving my Gurudev, and now by his mercy, he's made me one with himself. He's made me an expansion of himself, part of himself, in the transcendental plane, integrated into the divine paraphernalia of the Supreme Lord. So, but I cannot ever give up his service. Mats janmanam palamidam madukaitavare. Mat prataniya madanugra esha eva. Tvad britya britya paricharika britya britya. Pristasya britya itimam smaralokanata. Oh my Lord, this is the perfection of my life. This is the fruit of my life. This is what I'm praying for. And this is the only thing that I consider to be your mercy. What is that? That my Lord, you will see me and accept me. Remember me only as Tvad Britya Britya Paracharika Britya Britya. The servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of your servant. This is a kind of bhajan chaturya, actually. There's a sweetness in not serving directly, but serving the servant of the servant of the servant. There's a nectar there. Madhya Yashoda, we see when the milk was over boiling, she gave up Krishna and went to the milk. How is it possible? Does she have more love for the milk than for Krishna? But that's the nature of praying. That who is beloved to my beloved is 2 times my beloved. This is the mathematics of praying. Try to understand this. This is why Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, in giving our Sambandha Gyan, those who are in the line of Rupa Goswami will follow this relationship. Madishana tatvai brajavipina chandram bhajavane swanimtam na tatvai tadatu lasikittvai tulalitam vishakan shikshali litarana gurutvai presaro grindo tat prakshola litarati datvai smarmana. Madishana tatvai. Who is Krishna? Oh, he is the beloved of my Radharani. Not a direct relationship. This is better. Because who is the beloved of your beloved, then they have 2 times more love for you and you have 2 times more love for them. Swarimtam na tatvai tadatu laskitvai tulatam. And who is Radhika? Radhika is Krishna's beloved. So, if you have love for Radhika, then Krishna's her beloved. So then you love Krishna 2 times more. But Radhika is Krishna's beloved, so then you love Radhika 4 times more. And Lalita is Radhika's beloved. So then you love Lalita Sakhi 8 times more. And Rupa Manjari is Lalita Sakhi's follower. 16 times more for Rupa Manjari. Brain is like this. So Tad Britya Britya Paricharita Britya Britya. So it is a fact that actually the confidential mysteries of praying, no one can enter into it themselves. It is by invitation only. It's by invitation only. We have to be admitted to the transcendental plane. Nityananda Prabhu has opened Marketplace of the Holy Name in Godrum Dweep. There. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is there. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur there. Our Gurudev is there. All there. Only by their mercy can Kritvatmasat. Prahlad Maharaj said, he made me his own expansion. By the mercy of Gurudev, Gurudev can admit us into their eternal transcendental association. And then the nature of praying is revealed. Before then we're doing bhakti, but more or less we're doing bhakti because for our own happiness. I was suffering, my mind was disturbed. So I went and watched a movie. After that I felt worse. And then I made a vow, I'm not going to do that again. And that was the 100th time that the person made a vow. Yeah? Okay, I'm going to do some bhakti, then you chant and you go on the kirtan and you feel better. This is the conditioned stage where the person is doing bhakti, but it's for their own happiness. But when Atmasat, Gurudev makes the disciple Atmasat and he enters into that divine realm, then bhakti is what? Hoituki apratiyatha, spontaneous love, serving, always serving. Why? No time to think why. This is ahoituki, spontaneous love. So in this way, we try to discuss a little bit today in Guru Tattva. Tomorrow we'll discuss Akhanda, the meaning of the word. So I went over time. Please excuse me. Srila Gurudeva ki jai.
Can I ask a question? The question is, I would like some clarification or a reconciliation of something that you said, which is that Krishna has no dukkha anubhav because he's never experienced suffering, but Guru has some slight remembrance as in a dream, and you gave the example of Narada. So how do we understand that, since so many of our gurus are nitya siddha, they're eternal associates, and they may have done a human-like pastime of coming up step by step to perfection, but really it's just for our benefit, and they were always perfect. So can you explain that?
Yes, that's a very good question. This is why Srila Jiva Goswami gives the example of Narad, because we're familiar with his previous life from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. In general, according to Vishwanath Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini, generally the Madhyamadikaris are giving mercy. Generally. But very, very rarely, the great souls are coming down from the spiritual world also, and they're also giving mercy, of course, like our Parampara. The example is given of Narad. You know that though the history of Narad, becoming Narad, is in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, but Narad himself is a Nityaparka. He's an eternal associate. He's in all of the Leela. He's in the Leela of Krishna, he's in the Leela of Lord Ram, he's in the Leela of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Srivas Thakur, he's in Vaikuntha, he's in Golok, Vrindavan, Narad is everywhere. He's transcendental troublemaker. He goes everywhere, stirring up problems. That's his pastime. So, but sometimes those eternal associates, they expand themselves, and an expansion comes into this world and plays the role of going through being like a sadhak, and then in the end they enter back into them. Or they may get an eternal position similar. For example, it is said that some of the gopis, they expand themselves and appear as the demigoddesses. Then when Lord Brahma goes and prays to Kirdakasha Vishnu at the ocean of milk, then the Lord says, "Oh, I am about to appear in the world." Krishna speaks to him in the trance of Brahma. Said, "I am about to appear to this world, and the demigods should appear in the Yadu dynasty and help me, and the wives of the demigods should take birth also, and they take birth as gopis." So in the commentaries on Ujjwal Nilamani, Vishwanath Thakur and Jiva Goswami say that those expansions of the Nitya Siddha come into this world, appear as the demigoddesses in heaven, then they do a sadhana and they gradually become perfect. And when they become perfect, they become Priya Sakis. So the origin is the Paramprastha Sakis, and their expansions appear in this world and have pastimes with sadhaks, and when they become siddha, they become Priya Sakis, and the Priya Sakis are the followers eternally of the Paramprastha Sakis, like this. So it should be understood in this way, that generally mercy is coming from the Madhyamadikari. That is, Maitri, Prema Kripa, Maitri, Kripopecha, Sakaroti Samadhyama. Giving Kripa is generally the condition of the Madhyamadikaris. But when the eternal associates come down, then they behave like, though they're Uttam Adhikaris, but they behave like Madhyamas for the sake of preaching. Because those who are in the consciousness of the Uttam Adhikari, they can't preach to anyone because they think everyone has prema except for themselves. Their vision is that. Everyone has love except for me, so they don't preach. But if the Kripa Shakti comes in and their vision is adjusted to see the world like a Madhyam Adhikari, where they can see different types of people. Ishvaritada Dineshu, Balisheshu Disatsucha, Prema Maitri Kripopecha, Sakaroti Samadhyama. They see some people are envious, we'll neglect them. That means we pray for them, but we can't interact with them because they may make offense. And then those are innocents, they have to be given mercy, and the devotees' friendship, and for the Supreme Lord as well. So this is the answer according to the commentaries of the Avatar.
So if you could just confirm.
It sounds like you're saying that there's two situations that the Nityasiddha associate appears to be a condition coming up to perfection. One is when it's his expansion, and the other one, he's just playing a role. Like Raghunath Das Goswami Mahaprabhu said, don't come to me now, first become mature. And like our...
Nishta.
Huh?
Come to the stage of Nishta first.
So I'm understanding that you're saying there's two ways, correct?
I don't want to eat into someone is because he's prepared and very nice to try and come to hear it.
Or either of you. So the Nityasiddha Bhaktas, when they are going through the process of purification, even though they're already pure, and we know that in this world, the illusionary energy that acts upon us is Maya, and in Krishna's pastimes it's Yoga Maya, and it causes forgetfulness, like Krishna really forgets that he's God, and Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda don't think of their son as God, they really truly don't think that way. So when the Nityasiddha Bhakta is going through their quote-unquote suffering or their purification, it must be Yoga Maya that's acting that illusion upon them, because we know they're not under the influence of Maya. But in that moment, do they really feel suffering, or just saying they're pinprick, and then you feel someone else go through that because you've gone through that? Do they really experience suffering, or are they aware that they're eternally perfect? Like, does that make sense? Are they made to forget by Yoga Maya truly?
Well, Srila Gurudeva said, just like Krishna, he has two qualities, Mugdata and Sarvaketa. Krishna can know everything, and he can also be bewildered and know nothing. So, and even then we can't reconcile that, because our consciousness is just on one channel at a time, right? So, but Krishna simultaneously, he can be Mugdata in Goloka Vrindavan, just I am the son of Nanda and Yashoda, and now I have this big problem because I have fallen in love with the daughter of Vrishabhanu Maharaj, but she's already married, oh, what will I do? So this is Krishna in Vrindavan. But at the same time, if a devotee in this world is in Raga Marg, and some bhakti has come in their heart, Satam Prasangam Mama Virya Samvido Maharaj was saying, that if you have ordinary Sangha, the association of a sadhu is a sadhu, but not in Raga Marg, then Mama Virya Samvido, then Bhavantirakana Rasayana Kata, then by their association, you come under the shelter of Krishna's Kriya Shakti. And that's why it's called Bhajana Kriya. It's not actual bhajan. It's just the activities of bhajan, Bhajana Kriya. But when there's prasanga, the most excellent Rasik Sangha, then Mama Virya Samvido, there's Samvit Shakti in their katha. So Samvit Shakti is the self-revealing potency of Sri Krishna. So then the katha becomes Rasayana katha. The katha becomes full of rasa because Samvit Shakti is acting in the heart of the listeners. They're not just going through the motions of the activity, but they're actually realizing. So, just as we were discussing, if a devotee is in Raga Marg and they have that Samvit Shakti in their heart, then when they pray to Krishna in Golok Vrindavan, Hey Shamasundar Shikanda Sheka, Ha Nata Gokula Sudakara Suprasanna Bhaktara Vinda Madarasmita Ekapadra. Oh Krishna, your face is beautiful, shining like the moon, and your heart is melting with compassion. Please take me by the hand and lead me to that place where you are going to meet with Radhika. If the devotee will cry in this way, with realization, then Krishna will, being there, he'll hear that devotee's cry from here. So he's also Sarvagya. He's Sarvagya. But he's Sarvagya in relation to his Swarup Shakti. Like this. So I'm just giving this as an illustration how Krishna can be mugdata and sarvagyata, both qualities. He can be bewildered and also know everything. And so the pure Vaishnava in this world is saying, as Krishna likes, he can know everything, and for his leela being a humble sadhak, crying, I'm so fallen, oh Gurudev, be merciful to me, like that, then he becomes also mugdata. It's true, isn't it, Shamarani? She has endorsed and received stamp of approval from the senior Vaishnavas. Okay, is it clear?
Yes,
No, it's not good.
No, time.
No.
Because,
You can ask Shamarani.
all right, it's not clear for this reason, that sometimes we see a very dear pure devotee in sickness hospital. And they're physically deteriorating, they seem to be experiencing pain, things like that. Another example from a different angle would be somebody like Robin. Not every Robin, but this particular Robin that we know was Vijay. Or Jai. Jai, yeah. And he was eating meat, becoming intoxicated, he was anxiety and fearful and angry and all of it, I mean, completely absorbed, apparently. And yet, commentaries say that they're never under the modes of the pure nature, because they're descending and they're not conditioned in the same way. So it's kind of a semblance, you know, of this kind of suffering. But how do we understand that? I mean, are they really suffering in the way that we would suffer in that condition? Or is this some kind of amazing transformation of training? That's
First, I'll give a disclaimer that I'm not going to answer it as well as he can. But that said, Srila Gurudeva gives the example of an actor on stage, and he's wearing various costumes, and sometimes he even gets shot and dies on the stage, but it's all an act. Similarly, as Sri Guru is a prakash of Krishna, even though he's the servant, just like Shakshad Haritvena and then Kintu Prabhu. He's a direct manifestation with the qualities of the Lord, and at the same time, he's a dear servant, as a maidservant in Goloka Vrindavan. Either way you look at it, he's not going to be suffering. And Prem Priyojana Prabhu also quoted one slok that said, if he appears to be suffering, actually this is one of the types of ecstasies that he's experiencing. So even when he appears to leave, he never dies, he never takes birth, but he's doing a pastime just like Krishna does a pastime. And this is so inconceivable to us because he looks like a human being, but he's not a human being. So with our senses, we see a certain way, therefore we offer so many prayers in so many bhajans and so many books that let me see you as you are. Even when he leaves, I don't remember whether it was Gurudev or Param Gurudev, it was quoted in a Harmonist magazine by one of their articles, that when you see a man passing by your window, it doesn't mean he's finished when he leaves your vision, he's continuing. Or a road show, when the horses are going around and you only see him for a moment. That's why it was just mentioned that the Uttama Mahabhagavad is very rare. So he never experiences any suffering.
Did he?
How can he when simultaneously he's experiencing the Astasatvika bhavs, and he's in Krishna Leela as the maidservant of Srimati Radhika. It's not possible that the two things could go on simultaneously. Is that clear?
Yes, can I ask another question?
Another
You know,
question.
We're gonna have to,
Another
we should
This is
table
part
the
of her
question.
talking, and we can expand, you can adjust this as you
Question
want.
number 4.
Don't interrupt the flow. Otherwise,
The flow into the.
Go ahead, now you ask all the questions.
don't be,
Go
you
ahead.
know, kind of, too tied into the official schedule, you know? So, this is something that's in a lot of devotee minds. This thing I'm going to bring up, related to this. And it's Nitya Siddha Sadhana regarding Sri Guru. Now, you brought up the point about Sri Guru, because he's situated in that eternal consciousness, there is no suffering. So, sometimes it's said that many of our gurus are Nitya Siddha, but many, many more may have been Sadhana Siddha because that gives them that connection with the material world, which allows them to have that empathy, which, Gurudeva said the Nitya Siddhas, they never knew Maya. They never knew Maya. And there may have been some instance where they have some expansion or something, like Narad Muni, but how, in your understanding, does it matter if someone was a Nitya Siddha or Sadhana Siddha? Because some people get very offended with even the suggestion that Sri Guru may have at one time been conditioned. But now they're eternal, so does it matter?
Shastra says that there's no difference between a Nitya Siddha associate and a Sadhana Siddha associate. The gopis who were Sadhana Siddha, like the sages of Naimisharanya, please correct me if I'm wrong, always is kind enough to do that. And also the different rishis and their Sadhana Siddha, when Krishna played his flute, those who had sufficient association, those Sadhana Siddhas who had sufficient association with the Nitya Siddha gopis, they were able to go to join the Ras on the first day. And then those who hadn't had sufficient, they weren't able to join the Ras, which took the form of their husbands or father-in-laws stopping them. But that stopping them wasn't gives the example in his Ras Panchadhyaya commentary that some fruits can be picked the first day and the other fruits are ripening and they can be picked the next day or the day after that, according to the eagerness. Even Radharani makes Krishna become more and more eager before she thinks now this isn't an intellectual thinking, it's spontaneous. But before she gives Krishna association, he has to also show his eagerness. Srila Gurudeva said that sometimes, say Rupa Manjari, Radharani would be coming out to meet with Krishna, but she's hiding, and then Rupa Manjari would say to Krishna she couldn't come out. She was kept back by her in-laws, and then Krishna would practically faint, means he became more in anxiety, and then she showed herself. So it's there in entering Raganuga and entering Bhav and entering Prem. Everything depends on eagerness and the amount of greed. Is that clear?
This is the topic of Sri Guru, and in this situation right now, in separation, how can we cultivate and develop eagerness for the object of our devotion, Sri Guru?
I was just reading in Srila Gurudeva's slok number 7 in Vilapa Kusmanjali that unless we develop a feeling of separation for Sri Guru, there's no question of feeling any separation for Radha and Krishna, and thus there's no question of any bhajan. So everything depends on our keen relationship with Sri Guru. So as you know, we sing the various bhajans, and we don't actually feel the mood of the bhajan, and therefore, Srila Gurudev said, first we pray, not only first, but during the singing of the kirtans, the bhajans, that we pray to the person who wrote it, that this is your kirtan, not mine. Please make your kirtan my kirtan. Please make your words and my heart one. Please make your heart and my heart one. And also, I was just reading today in slok number 13 or 14, that Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, in his prayers to Srimati Radhika, he rolls on the bank of Radhakund whenever he comes into his external consciousness or half internal, half external consciousness. Gurudev said, this is for the siddha, but for someone who is sadhak abhas, wanting to be sadhak, then we can only pray for that stage. So once he was telling us the prayer, Namashreshtam Manamapi Sachi Putramatra Sarupam, that I offer my obeisances to my Gurudev, I surrender to my Gurudev, who's given me Harinam, who's given me Diksha, who's given me the understanding of Mathura Viraha, of Srimati Radhika and the gopis. So Gurudev said, when we say this prayer, there's some pinching, because I can't thank him that he's given that to me because I don't have it. So then I put in a PS that please make this prayer my prayer. Does that answer the question? So, Ajnanam Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. The rest of it came before. First, I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Astota Sat Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada, and the same unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Shiksha Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pad, Astota Sat Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, to Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, to our Param Gurudev Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, to all of his divine associates and to all the beautiful assembled devotees and guests. First, a disclaimer that you've heard such wonderful katha from real sadhus, and as I mentioned to Sri Prem Prayojana Prabhu when we were having one discussion in Vrindavan, that when I'm having a discussion with you, I feel like my mouth is full of bubble gum. Nothing clear comes out. So, how would I give that? So, Guru Tattva, you heard a little bit mention of some of the slokas in the Guru Vastikam prayers by Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur, and that will be our concentration now. So first, a bit about Guru Tattva is that he is eternal and he's everywhere. He's in every atom. I've heard Srila Gurudev say this about our Srila Prabhupada, and also when he was in Los Angeles, he said, somebody asked me a question about Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur that I'd never heard before, and I gave an answer that I'd never given before. They asked, where is he now? And I answered, he's everywhere. He's in every atom. Why? Andantarastam paramanu chayantarastam. Krishna is in every atom as the super soul. Govindam, what is it? Andantarastam Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindam Aripurasham Tamaham Bhajami. Govinda also, this is quite inconceivable, Govinda also is in every atom along with his entire Goloka Vrindavan. So, all of his associates are everywhere with him in every atom as well. And that includes Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So because he's one of the maidservants of Srimati Radhika, he's not only on their roadshow with them in all places, in millions of universes at the same time, and not only in Goloka Vrindavan in unlimited pastimes at the same time, but he's also in every atom with Krishna. And then I asked Srila Gurudeva, so does that mean you're in every atom too? So he didn't quite answer directly, as he has a tendency not to answer directly when it's about him. But he did say that when Parikshit Maharaj came to the bank of the Ganges to fast for 7 days until death, and then Sukadeva Goswami was sent by Krishna to speak to him Srimad Bhagavatam. There wasn't any internet at that time, no email, nothing to communicate across the world in a few moments, what to speak of communicate throughout the universe in a few moments. And yet the sages from different planets came to hear Sukadeva Goswami speaking to King Parikshit. How did they know? So if they have so much power to know, then what to speak of a maidservant of Srimati Radhika? I remember in Mawulambar, he said that, it slipped. He said that only the maidservants of Srimati Radhika are full gurus, because a guru is complete according to his Istadev or Istadevi. And Srimati Radhika is even the worshipful deity, Devi Krishnamayi Prokta Radhika Paradevata. She's the worshipful deity even of Krishna himself. So others who are following all the symptoms of a pure devotee, like Prahlad Maharaj, like Srila Haridas Thakur, they're still not complete gurus. Only the guru who's a manifestation of the heart of Srimati Radhika is complete, though the others are perfect. So Sri Guru is, as you heard, he's a plenary expansion of the Lord, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said, and at the same time I know him as a servant of the Lord. Similarly, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami wrote that one can see him as a manifestation of Nityananda Prabhu, Akhanda Guru Tattva. Nityananda Prabhu is Balaram himself, who is Akhanda Guru Tattva, and the Guru is a manifestation of him. So he's not only a manifestation of Vyasadeva, and therefore all the Vedic literatures are in his heart. He's not only a manifestation of Nityananda Prabhu, but as Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami said, one can also see him as an associate of Srimati Radhika. And that's also confirmed there in Guru Vastakam, which we'll come to in a moment. So he's eternal, he's in every atom, and Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj wrote that he's the personification of everything that's dear to the Lord. That is Bhagavan Shrestha. So the first verse, plus, I wanted to hopefully reconcile a previous conversation, the question of Sripad Vaikanas Maharaj to Sripad Bhagwat Maharaj about the books. how to reconcile. Srila Gurudeva explained that in the absence of the Sri Guru or the pure Vaishnavas, all pure Vaishnavas are Guru, one can associate with Shiksha Guru in the book. How? Not by picking up the book and saying to myself, now I'm going to read something and learn something. Not at all like that. But he explained in several ways and times, way back in the early 90s, that one takes the book on his head, takes the book on his heart, and then prays, "Oh Prabhu, you're not a book." Let's say we're reading first canto Srimad Bhagavatam, as you heard about the discussion of Narada and Vyasadeva. "Oh Prabhu, you're not a book. You are Sukadeva Goswami yourself, Trivikram Maharaj yourself, Sutta Goswami yourself, the 88,000 sages of Naimisharanya yourself, you're Vyasadeva yourself, and you're Srila Prabhupada yourself for giving us the translation and purports. So please, all of you, shower your mercy on me so that I, who am sitting directly at your lotus feet and personally hearing from you, I can realize what you're saying, and I can," he said it in different ways. Once he said, "so that I can come out of Radhadasi." Another time he said, "so that I can be free from all doubts in Tattva Siddhanta." He said, if one reads like that, not reads but serves by prayer, if one associates with a book like that, then all Tattva Siddhanta comes in your heart. And he said, if we don't read like that, then all doubts will come in your heart. He said, so many Vidvans, big scholars of Mathura and Vrindavan and other places, they come to me to understand the slokas of the Vedic literatures. Why? Because I pray like that. So I hope that's a reconciliation. So, samsara davanali daloka. This material world is like a forest fire. Forest fire burning everywhere, and we're in the middle of it. And why don't we experience it? Because we're like drunkards, intoxicated by wine, not conscious of all the sufferings that we're undergoing. Somebody may be suffering, but if he's not conscious, he doesn't feel it. Just like a drunken person is lying in the drain, and he's thinking, I am the monarch of all I survey. But he's lying in the drain, in the gutter, and some dog comes over and being attracted by the salt and the perspiration, licks him, licks his face, and he's thinking, I'm so loved by this dog. So we're just intoxicated, and that's why we don't feel it, but we are in a forest fire. So the only one, as you've heard from the previous two speakers, the only one who's not burning up in the fire is Sri Guru. And as you've heard, he is the condensed, thick mercy of Krishna. When Krishna's mercy becomes so thick that he takes the form of Guru. We've heard Brahmanda Bhomite Konya Bhagivanaji Guru Krishna Prashade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Either Krishna, meaning is either Krishna sends his representative, or Guru or Krishna becomes his representative. Shakshad Haritva. He's the, Krishna has two forms, one as Vishaya, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then he himself assumes the form of Ashraya Vigraha. That means the Supreme Personality of serve to Godhead. So, he's coming, Sri Guru is coming, like the rain comes from the sky, but first it was evaporated from the ocean. So coming from the ocean of Sri Krishna's pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan, and Krishna is the ocean of all auspicious qualities, unlimited auspicious qualities. Coming from there, he pours down the rain of mercy. You heard that Krishna only is absorbed in and relates with his Swarup Shakti. So Sri Guru, his Hari Katha brings us from Shraddha to Nistha to Ruchi to Ashakti and so on, because his words are non-different from Swarup Shakti. Swarup Shakti means the combination of Krishna, Sambit Shakti, Hladini Shakti, Srimati Radhika, and that Swarup Shakti is predominated by Hladini Shakti on the platform of Sandini Shakti, who is personified as Sri Baladev. All the pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan are under the control or constituted of this Swarup Shakti, which is non-different from the words emanating from the lips of the pure devotee. Very interesting. Srila Gurudeva was explaining, I'm taking much of what I'm saying now from a lecture that he gave in Germany in December of 2000, all about this kirtan, Guruvastikam. He said, even if Sri Guru is speaking mundane talk, still, or if he says nothing, still sit there and be with him. Why? Because from the pores of his body, praying atoms are coming from that transcendental realm, and they go on to everyone who's there. So even if he's speaking so-called mundane talk, this is called Shabda Brahman. And even if a conditioned soul, like my poor self, is speaking Hari Katha, it's not really Hari Katha, it's imitation Hari Katha, because real Hari Katha descends through the lips of the pure devotee. So even if a conditioned soul is speaking about Krishna, repeating what I've heard, it's still samanya, shabda samanya, still mundane. But I can give you some information.
We benefit too.
And he was also mentioning, when he was talking about the super astounding effects of sadhu sangha, that there was Jana Sharma, and he was taking instructions from his guru, Swarup or Gop Kumar, and he was developing faith by hearing about the many births of his Gurudev and how he so-called achieved perfection. Again, it was Narabhat Leela, but he really was a conditioned soul, Jana Sharma. And by the mercy of Lord Shiva and Parvati, and he attained the association of Gop Kumar, who is a cowherd boy named Swarup in Goloka Vrindavan. So he had faith, but he had no realization. Then what happened? Swarup touched him on the head, and immediately he closed his eyes, opened his eyes, and at once he was in Goloka Vrindavan with Krishna embracing him as another cowherd boy. This is a magic effect to wake up from the dream that Prabhu was just speaking about, that everything is a dream. We're not really connected. Srila Vyasadeva wrote the Srimad Bhagavatam because he saw that the miseries of a living entity, which are superfluous to him, can only be destroyed by bhakti yoga, but the whole world doesn't know this, and therefore he compiled the Sattvata Samhita, the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the mode of pure goodness, and coming through the lips of the pure devotee. So then, the second verse, Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitra Gita, Bhaditramajyam Manasodasena. So again, there's a connection with Sri Guru's being from that realm. So we're dancing, and he's dancing. We're singing, and he's singing. What is the difference? The difference is my dancing is controlled. I'm going to dance in this way, either to attract attention or because I know I'm supposed to, or I'm feeling some neophyte happiness. But I'm still in control. Even if I'm leaping and jumping, I'm still in control. But the Sri Guru, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's also a manifestation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's thick mercy, when Mahaprabhu was asked about his dancing, he said, I have absolutely no control. This I was reading in Teachings of Lord Chaitanya. I'm not chanting. The holy name is making me chant, and the holy name is making me dance out of my control. So this is the type of dancing and singing that Sri Guru is doing. So there are, because as you heard, he's always experiencing the eightfold ecstasies of hair standing on end, as we see in this verse, Ramanchikam Pashu Tarangabajo. His hairs are standing on end, he's perspiring. These are various astasattvic bhavs. And there's another kind of transcendental emotion that he's experiencing, which is called an anubhav, which is one of the ingredients of sthayi bhav. Don't think I know what I'm talking about. I'm only combining symbols. So it's one of the 13 types of anubhavs. That is, when there's sattvic bhavs, or these emotions of hair standing on end in the heart, it's coming out of the body, but even more coming out of the body is when one is dancing and singing loudly. So this is all the anubhavs of Sri Guru. It's not ordinary singing or dancing. Also, jumping happens to be one. I jump and he jumps. There's no similarity. Not even the similarity of a horse and an ass. Because he was saying in the Bhakti that the difference between, or the similarity between Raganuga Bhakti and Ragamika Bhakti is like the similarity between a horse and an ass. You must remember that. He was editing. He's saving my life like a million times over and correcting all my Siddhantic, historic, spiritual mistakes in the Vilapas Manjari. So Gurudev said there must be similarity. So there's similarity between Raganuga and Ragamika, or the sadhan to reach Goloka Vrindavan and being an associate. But here there's not even that similarity. So whatever we learn from our acharyas in their books and prayers, especially we're now reading in Vilapas Manjari, that what is a Manjari? She has no interest in having a direct relationship with Krishna. If Krishna tries, then she'll say, what are you doing? Why do you want to give yourself the lesser happiness? And why do you want to give me the lesser happiness? My greatest happiness is when I can arrange for the meetings of you and Srimati Radhika. So whatever goes on in the heart, mind, face, body, mouth of Srimati Radhika because of her relationship with Krishna, that's experienced by all those who are near her, who are hearing, who are seeing. That goes on their bodies as well. In one of the Acharya's pastime books, it says that when the manjaris wake up in the morning, in the courtyard outside of the Nikunja, within which Srimati Radhika and Krishna are asleep, they look at their own bodies to see what happened last night with Radha and Krishna. So this is what Sri Guru brings down, what he's feeling there, and then it's coming. Some of the things he shows us, but some of the things he doesn't show us because we wouldn't be able to understand. Like Srila Gurudeva, when Srila Gurudeva asked him about Gopal Champu and the pastimes of Krishna being chastised by his mother for stealing butter, and then she ties him up and puts him in the tree. Then he goes in the tree, in between the two trees. So he's asking his Guru Maharaj about that pastime, and his Guru Maharaj began weeping uncontrollably. So that's for a disciple who could understand. But like this hiccuping and belching, which we don't see, these are also anubhavs that are experienced by Sri Guru, and whatever he wants to manifest here, or whatever Krishna wants to manifest here, he does. Then the third verse is Sri Vigrahara Dhananityanana Shringara Tanamandira Marjanado. And this is also two-phased. He's very, very strict in following and setting an example for his disciples of very strict archan, regulation, timeliness in serving the deity. At the same time, at a certain time, he reveals to us who are stuck in that now. Let's see, how many times did I go around with the incense? Was that 7 or was that supposed to be 14? Was I supposed to start at the stomach on the incense or the leg? I forget. But we're doing the motions. And then I'm doing the chamara. So Gurudeva was explaining when he came to Houston in 1996, he was already speaking to those who had his association in the early 90s, but then he started spreading it all over the world starting in 1996. In Houston, he was saying that if we're doing the chamara like that and taking so long to do each article, especially he was talking about the chamara, he said, Krishna says, this person's doing exercise and I'm hungry. I don't want to stay here. Or even if we do such a long arati. But what are we learning? We're learning, Srila Guru they've said now it's the time to put in the mood into your arati. And put in the mood in your offering of bhoga. But then there's the other level of Sri Guru himself. The other level of how he's so strict. He was even talking in one lecture about don't put your nails, cut your nails short and don't put your nail in the ashman cup, because then it gets contaminated. But at the same time, he's on another level of Sri Vigrahara Dhananityananda, and that is he sees the moving Vigraha, the moving deity. He, along with his associates, or she, along with her associates, they wake up Srimati Radhika, just everything that we all do here. The waking up, the ringing of the bell. The ringing of the bell is what? Like ankle bells, waist bells. So we do everything like robots, or at least I do. But in the real world, he's waking them up. Then she might see, oh, Radha and Krishna are stuck together because during their nocturnal pastimes, their their ornaments. Radharani's nose ring got entangled in Krishna's hair. So seeing or thinking of every strand of her hair as millions of times more valuable than her own life, she figures out how to unentangle. And then giving some, what's that, Bidika? It's like a smoothie. I think he's in trance. So then, like with a smoothie, that's the English translation, just so that there won't be anything difficult to chew on, she gives that to Radha and Krishna to help them gradually wake up. And then Radharani says to Krishna, now in our pastime you've upset all my decorations, so now please decorate me again. So the Guru in that realm, he gives Krishna various unguents, he gives Krishna a comb so that Krishna could himself decorate and ornament Srimati Radhika. So that is his real internal level of Sri Vigrahara Dhananityananda. And then what else do we do? Rekha, what else do we do? You're a Pujari. What else do we do? Feeding them, but we'll come to that with Chaturvida Sri Bhagavata Shara. Dressing them, ornamenting them, and bathing them. So the Sri Guru, in his form as Pranpriya Saki, I remember I told Gurudev, there's a little bit difference in my relationship with you now and with our Srila Prabhupada, because I didn't meet you too long ago, so I really didn't have much time to commit so many offenses. So, but I made so many offenses to our Srila Prabhupada. Like I feel like there's a wall between us due to my offenses. So Gurudev said, don't fear, don't think like that. Think of him as your Pran Priya Saki. Then of course he said at other times, if we're not on that level, then at least think of him as bosom friend. So when they bathe, when they dress, when they ornament, they don't only do that silently, but they always talk to Srimati Radhika about how this particular unguent or this particular ornament, I remember you had a pastime with Krishna like that. Now I'm giving you the pearls. So of course we're not on that level, but we want to know what is the goal so we know what we want when we pray. Something can be known. Like, I'm giving you these pearls now. Do you remember what happened when you were with Krishna and the other gopis, and then you had to separate because you had to go back home, and Krishna was going with his cowherd boys, but you couldn't tolerate having a moment's separation from him. So what did you do? You took your mala of pearls, made it break, and then you had to spend time finding all these pearls. And what did you do when you were looking for the pearls? You kept looking up and watching Krishna as he was walking off with or going to meet again his cowherd friends. So each and every unguent, the bracelets, the designs on her face that they give her, each one, they remind her of a pastime or more than one pastime that she's had with Krishna, and that they were there to see. So there's so much depth in Sri Guru. Then cleaning, you clean for the deities. You make sure the altar is nice, everything is around the altar is nice, and if you consider your whole house a temple, then for the deity, you're cleaning the whole temple. So similarly, Sri Guru in that realm, even our Srila Prabhupada taught the devotees how to clean. You have 2 pots, 2 buckets, one with clean water and one with dirty water, because They didn't clean right. The disciples weren't cleaning right, so he got on his hands and knees and showed them. You have one clean bucket, one dirty bucket. You put the rag, the cloth in the clean bucket, and then you clean the floor. And then you rinse it out in the dirty bucket, and then you put it again into the clean bucket. So that's on this level. He also teaches his disciples how to worship the deity. So on the other level, we find that Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, he's praying for when will that time come that I can clean your drains, that is the water that's coming from Radharani's bathing, clean your drains and dry them with my hair, and clean everything inside and outside of your house. When will that day come? So many, many different levels. Once I asked Srila Gurudeva in 1996, it was in Houston, I said, so brazen, I said, oh, could you tell us what you do during the day? There. He said, I don't want to talk about those things. I want to speak about Valapakus Manjali. So first I was, what is it, heartbroken. But then I realized that in a shortcut nutshell, he told me what he does all day. Of course, it's only a hint, it's only an outline. But as a follower of Raghunath Das Goswami, as a follower of the Goswamis in their internal form as well, we know what Srila Gurudeva is doing during the day. He's also serving Sri Vigraha in all those ways, putting them to sleep. And like we offer our lamp, and he's offering his when he's massaging her feet, his nails are so brilliant, just like lamps. If he's massaging her feet on his chest, that smells like incense. So this is a robot life that, or we offer a flower. So what he's doing is he's making garlands with the other maid servants. So Sri Vigrahara Dhananityanana. And then Chatur Vida Sri Bhagavat Prashadam. Sri Guru teaches how to, how much time do we have? Oh, it's already over. I can continue from here next
Tomorrow night?
day. Yeah, we can do that. There's still 5 more verses.
I assume everyone who says no also will be at 6 a.m. Mangalarti?
Yes.
Okay.
And we'll help clean up tonight.
And we'll help clean up tonight. Great. Then continue. No problem.
See you.
A few minutes.
Okay, a few minutes. So I'll try to be quick then. So Chaturvida Sri Bhagavat Prashadam. He teaches what Krishna likes and what Krishna doesn't like here in this world. How to cook, how not to smell before eating, unless it's in service. Or did I put salt in or did I not put salt in? So teaching us to how to offer the bhoga, how to call for Guru. Welcome, welcome, please have a seat. Here's your mouthwash, here's your foot wash. And then we welcome the deities, and then we pray to Sri Guru that I'm not qualified to make an offering because I'm not there. So I know that you're actually making the offering, but I'm saying the mantras, I'm saying the words, knowing that you're actually making the offering. So many rules and regulations, like for example, that we learn from Sri Guru, that is, when the prasadam was already served, and if somebody's hands have already taken some prasadam, even with a spoon, then you don't want to touch that pot again. We ask the server who's clean, and if the server wants to take my plate and then serve onto that plate, that's against the rules, because he gets contaminated and then he can't touch the pot. So many rules that Sri Guru teaches us on this level, but then on the other level, what is he doing? Well, first, he wants to give us mood, how to make the offering, what to meditate on, how, for example, he was with, this is the last one, I'm doing the rest tomorrow. he was with us at Nanda Bhavan on Brajmandal Parikrama, and we were sitting there in the courtyard with him, and he was saying how Srimati Radhika comes every morning to cook for Krishna, and then he said how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's Krishna in the mood of Srimati Radhika, he's meditating when he takes prasadam himself, how she takes prasadam and what she says when she's taking prasadam with her sakis, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is experiencing various ecstasies, and how he's in the mood of the gopis, he's criticizing the flute for being able to taste all the nectar of Krishna's lips and not leave a drop for us, because the prasadam is the nectar of Krishna's lips. So tasting that, Mahaprabhu is dancing in ecstasy as he takes prasadam. So he's trying to give us, Srila Gurudeva is trying to give us meditations. Don't try and enjoy it. Don't eat prasadam. He said when he was at a host's house, and the host asked, "What will you eat?" He said, "I told them I haven't eaten a thing in my life." "Well, then how do you live?" "I honor and serve Bhagavad Prasadam." Don't eat prasadam, don't chant Hare Krishna, don't hear Hare Katha, serve Hare Katha, serve the holy name, and serve Krishna Prasadam. Once I asked him, how do you serve Krishna Prasadam? Then he said, Mahaprasade Govinde. You all know that prayer. But then he said there's another prayer, Prema Danchame, Kama Danchame, Veda Nanchame, Veda Tanchame, Vaiva Vanchame, Vaiva Tanchame, Daiva Tanchame, Daiva Naparam. That prasadam is not different from Krishna. So, O prasadam, whatever Krishna and his pure devotees and the pure brahmanas, Govinda, O Govinda, that's you, Mahaprasadi Govinde, Nama, Brahmani, Vaishnava, you are all, you, Krishna, and your name, and the brahmanas, and the pure Vaishnavas, you can give me prema bhakti, you can take away all my anarthas, and give me prema bhakti. Not only prema bhakti, but kama danshame. You can also give me kamatmika bhakti, the love of the gopis. You are my life. Not that carob brownie is my life, but meditating that the prasadam is actually Krishna. And I'd like to talk tomorrow also about how the Gurudev in his that form is hearing Srimati Radhika speak about the benefits of prasadam and the nectar of Krishna's lips. So he's offering 4 kinds of foodstuffs. Once, Srila Raghunath Das Goswami had a stomachache, and the doctor examined him, he said he overate. How could he overeat? He only has 1 slice of butter every other day, or a tiny cup of buttermilk every alternate day, or a couple of chickpeas in a day. So how did he overeat? So he admitted that I was taking the remnants of Srimati Radhika's prasadam there, and so I overate, and so it came as a stomachache. So Sri Guru is simultaneously there, and he simultaneously manifests here. He goes with Radharani to make breakfast. He walks with her over to Nanda Bhavan from Yavat to make breakfast for Krishna. At night, she may just send her with whatever she's cooked at home, and then the manjaris bring that to Krishna. I don't want to continue now because I don't want to rush, and there's a lot more nectar about the prasadam. So very, very interesting. Also from Vallabh Kusmanjali, must read whenever it's published. And they already have a version published. Okay, so thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Srila Gurudeva. All glories to Akanda Guru Tapa, Panchatopachuja Sukadesina Chapatitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavendhyo Namo Namaha, and forgive me for all my mistakes.
Thank you so much. I wasn't on. Nash, which one are you using? That was not on. Don't use that one. Don't use that one.
Here.
We're still live, by the way.
This is on?
They turn it off.
So, I mean, I don't really need the microphone, but anyways, for performance sake, actor is going to play. So, thank you all so much for being here. This is the first evening of a 4-day festival, so we have 3 more fantastic days. We're going to have a quick kirtan, and then we'll have prashadam. So we're adjusting a little bit. And I want to make the announcement, would it be a festival for Srila Gurudeva if we didn't make this announcement, that we have this incredible array of transcendental books and art on this table over here. And Srila Gurudeva would always say at every single festival that he did, that he wants to see this table empty by the end of the festival. And so we have a unique special. We've never run this special before. Any number of books for any number of donation, any number of posters for any donation. Please see Vasanti Didi or Harvey Mohini Didi or Bhakti Manjari Didi if you're interested in being engaged in this incredible service. And see me if you want to be engaged in any of the other services. Thank you. Haribol. We have Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Bale Vrindavan Laal ki jai, Vaishnava ki jai, Jai Jai Sri Radhe. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Gaura Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Srila Gurudeva ki jai. Nichira Vishnu Vishpan, Asto Tarasata Shri Shrimad, Srila Gurudeva Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nichira Vishnu Vishpan, Asto Tarasata Shri Shrimad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nichira Vishnu Vishpan, Asto Tarasata Shri Shrimad, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Trivikram Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Manbujapad Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Manbujapad Srila Bhakti Balabhati Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nichira Vishnu Vishnupada Astatarasata Shri Shriman Srila Bhakti Daita Madhav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nichira Vishnu Vishnupada Astatarasata Shri Shriman Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nichira Vishnu Vishnupada Astatarasata Shri Shriman Acharya Keshari Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudeva ki jai. Swaparashad Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Mahabhagavat Srila Gaurkishore Das Babji Maharaj ki jai. Saptam Goswami Srila Sachinanda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Vaishnava Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Babji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauri Vedanta Acharya Srila Baladevi Jabhushan Guru ki jai. Rasik Srila Bani Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur ki jai. Shri Naratam Srinivas Shamananda Prabhu Shai ki jai. Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai. Shri Ravinath Thakur ki jai. Shri Gauriya Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhattaragana Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasagana Sad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Swarup Damadai Gauravan Adi Shri Gaura Parashad Vrinda ki jai. Shri Namacharya Haridas Thakur ki jai. Ishvara Puripad Balavancha Puripad ki jai. Prem se Gahose Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Gaura Manda Brajamanda Shechamandra Dham ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Govardhan Dwara Savarmaka Shri Brajamandala ki jai. Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Budaganga Tulsi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya Devi ki jai. Shri Gopashwa Mahadevi ki jai. Jagannath Baladev Shri Bhajaji Sudarshan Chakra ki jai. Sarva Viksamagnasan Shri Shri Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakta Prabha Shri Paramaraj ki jai. Chara Samadaya Chara Dham Chara Acharya ki jai. Akara Mataraja Shri Chaitanya Mata ki jai. Shri Gauri Vedanta Outreach Mayami ki jai. Shri Akhanda Guru Tattva Festival Mayami ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Samagata Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Nitai Gaura Siddhanatha Premanande Vrindavan Vihari Lal ki jai. Shaniwal ki jai. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. So it's also Satila Akadasi Tithi, so we are honoring Akadasi Mahaprasad this evening. The easiest way to do this is we'll roll up the yoga mats, we're going to sit in rows, and we're going to serve you. So let's get to that together very quickly.